Hi, so some more tricky areas in Advanced Word, ECDL Advanced Word at Coventry University, using the word processing pre-online revision paper to do these demonstrations. So question 23 deals with macros. So we're going to create a macro in the Attendance 1 file called Change Borders that will show a border inside and out on the table in the document, and save and close the document with the file name Attendance1 .m, so in macro enabled. So let's do this one together. So we're going to double click on Attendance 1 in the Word pre-online revision work files and open that up, and we can see we've got a table here. The first thing we need is the developer tab. Now in the test this developer tab will be on. If you're somewhere else and you haven't got it on, you need to go to the file menu, file tab, options, and then in the customize ribbon click there and you'll see the developer tab area here, and you just put a tick in there and then OK, and then it's here, it's available. And that helps because we're going to use this area, the code group, to do our macros. So good suggestion in a test, or in real life anyway, is to go and have a look and see where it is you're going to do your macro. So this one concerns borders. So if I go on the Home tab, and I can see that I've got my border feature here. So if I drop that down, what I'm going to be looking for is borders in and outside, which looks like that one there. So I'm not going to do it because I'm not yet in the macro. Okay, so just have a look. You're only exploring, you're not doing. So the first thing I need to do is I need to select the table that I'm going to create a macro for, because once you're in a macro you cannot select objects such as a table, so just be aware of that. In the exam, if you're doing the exam, they do say, if you get this type of question, select the table and create a macro and give you the name of the macro, etc. So back to our question, we're creating a macro and we're going to call it Change Borders. So we're going into our Developer tab and onto the Record Macro here. This is our macro name, so let's type in Change Borders. Notice that it's all one word. There's no I'm just going to make that a lowercase, doesn't really matter. There's no space because VBA code doesn't allow space, and if you've got two words and want to keep them separated, you could use an underscore. Notice there's a store macro in area as well, so in this case it's asking us to store it in the Attendance 1 document here, so we drop that down and use that. Nothing takes place until we click on OK, and then the macro begins. So remember, a macro is a series of strokes that are recorded, and they're usually common things that you do or monotonous things that you don't want to do over and over again. And you can create a button or something on your quick access toolbar, like I've got a macro up there, just where my cursor is up here, and you can click on it and you can make a couple of things or one thing happen that you've recorded through a macro. So this one's about putting some borders on the table. So let's go ahead and do it. So I click on OK. You can see the little tape recorder, unhappy one, at the end of my cursor here. I'm going to go to the Home tab, and before I click on anything, notice all the way down here on the taskbar there's a square, and if I hover on that, that square is there to stop your macro. So wherever you click, whatever tabs you go into or features you go into, that will always be there. You could also go back to the Developer tab and you could use the stop recording that way, but anyway, I'm just showing you that's the one I use at all times. So I'm going back into the Home tab, I'm going into my borders, dropping it down, click on all borders, you can see the action take place, and then I'm going to click on stop. So you can see that now that has taken place. If I go into my Developer tab, I can see in here there's now a Change Borders in there. The most common thing that happens is when people have done the macro, they stay in the macro when they have to save the document as macro enabled. So we have stopped our macro, and then you would obviously go to the File, Save As. Make sure it goes into the Z drive, which is always the case in the test, otherwise wherever it is you're saving it, and then you would make sure that it was macro enabled before doing so. So that's macros. This is one where you have to select before you start the macro, but it's the same old advice. Always check where you're going and what you're doing before you go into your macro, and then you'll be nice and calm when you do it. Remember, you can click around a little bit, won't be the end of the world, it'll still record your macro, and then use them in the real world and make life a little bit easier. Okay, that's it for macros. I'm going to move on to something else. Thank you.